Okay, so get this. Today's deep dive, we're talking mice.
Mice.
Yeah, mice. But not just any mice. We're going deep into their conflicts, their brawls, rodent rivalries. And get this, a surprising tactic researchers are calling the bait and switch.
Bait and switch sounds more like a used car dealership than animal behavior.
Right. But trust me on this one, it's way more interesting than it sounds. And to make sense of it all, we're tapping into some seriously cool technology.
Yeah, that's what I think is so fascinating here. We're using cutting-edge tech machine learning to actually decode these really intricate social interactions. But in mice, it's like we finally figured out a way to eavesdrop on their world.
Machine learning. Okay, I got to admit, sometimes that stuff goes right over my head. So for those of us who don't speak AI, break it down. How do you even study a mouse fight? Those little guys are tiny and they're fast.
Imagine this. You're trying to follow a dozen conversations happening all at once. It's kind of like that with animal behavior. There's just so much going on. But now, machine learning, it's like having this super-powered observer that can track every little twitch, every chase, every single interaction between the mice, and it doesn't miss a beat.
So like a superpowered magnifying glass on all these tiny dramas.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that, in this case, it revealed some pretty unexpected strategies that these mice use.
Okay, so before we get to those strategies, set the scene for us.
Yeah.
We're talking lab mice, right? What's the rodent rivalry situation?
Think of it like a miniature version of those nature documentaries, but instead of a vast savanna, it's this controlled environment. The researchers set it up so that they can closely observe what happens. They put 2 male mice and 2 female mice together. And, well, things get kind of interesting.
Okay, classic four-way dot mouse house drama. I'm picking up what you're putting down, so things get a little tense.
You could say that. The researchers specifically wanted to study how the male mice respond to aggression, especially from, those alpha males, the ones who like to throw their weight around.
Dominant males strutting their stuff. Haven't we all met that guy? But, okay, how does this whole bait and switch thing actually come into play? We're dying to know.
Well, the researchers noticed this pattern. When a less dominant male was being chased by, let's call him the aggressor, instead of just running away in a straight line like you might expect.
They ordered takeout.
Yeah.
Binge watch reality TV. What's the mouse equivalent of avoiding drama?
Not quite. These mice, they run towards a female mouse.
Hold on, still use the female mouse as a...
Exactly.
Yeah.
That distraction. It's not about romance or anything. It's pure strategy. See, the aggressor is laser-focused on the conflict, on showing who's boss. But by suddenly running towards a female, that fleeing mouse, he's no longer the most interesting thing around.
It's like a classic bait and switch. They're totally playing on the aggressor's instincts, changing the entire game.
And get this, the study found that it was surprisingly effective, much more so than just trying to outrun the aggressor or hide.
Wow. I would put my money on speed or some serious hiding skills. Who knew social dynamics were so important in the mouse world?
It's true. And, it actually highlights this principle that we see throughout nature, using distraction to de-escalate a conflict. It's not about making the conflict disappear, but about redirecting the energy, shifting the focus towards something less threatening. And it's not just mice. We see it in primates, birds, even some insects.
I know, that's seriously blown my mind. But how does this, tiny mouse tactic actually apply to anything bigger than a cage match over cheese crumbs?
Think about it this way. You're in a heated meeting, right? And things are getting a little tense.
Oh, I've been there.
Maybe someone's about to launch into, a full-blown rant.
You can practically see the steam coming out of their ears.
Exactly. But then someone else, they kind of step in and they skillfully redirect the conversation.
They call IT.
Laughs. No, not quite. They might introduce a new topic, maybe crack a well-timed joke, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And what happens? The tension, it just seems to diffuse.
Yeah.
The focus shifts.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it's really effective when it's done well.
Exactly. And it's kind of what those mice are doing.
So you're saying these mice are like tiny little masters of workplace conflict resolution.
Laugh. Well, maybe not for your next board meeting, but it is a fascinating parallel, right?
Yeah.
This idea that understanding and then redirecting the flow of energy in a conflict, that's a skill that maybe it goes beyond just us.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So it's not just about running away from the fight, but strategically redirecting that energy, that aggression, somewhere else, to something less explosive.
You got it. The female mouse, she becomes this sort of accidental peacemaker, this buffer.
A rodent mediator.
Right. And it really makes you wonder what other kinds of subtle strategies are animals using that we haven't even begun to crack.
Right. Like we're just scratching the surface of really understanding animal intelligence.
Absolutely.
This study, though, it focused on this whole bait and switch tactic. But I'm guessing these mice, they probably had other tricks up their tiny sleeves.
Oh, they definitely tried other things. Some of them, they tried to completely avoid the aggressor, like scurrying away and hoping to go unnoticed.
Yeah, makes sense.
Others, well, they tried facing down the bully head on.
Oh boy, how'd that go?
As you can imagine, not so well. The study actually found that while these other tactics, they might offer some temporary relief,
Sure.
they often made the conflict worse in the long run.
So it's not just about avoiding the fight in the moment, but finding a way to, like, actually keep the peace long term.
Exactly. Which, let's be honest, is something that we humans are still trying to figure out.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so what can we, with our big brains and all, actually learn from these mouse masterminds? Okay, but could this whole bait and switch thing actually work in our day-to-day lives? I mean, I can't exactly run to the nearest stranger every time someone cuts me off in traffic.
Right, you might cause a few more accidents than you solve that way.
Yeah, probably not the best strategy.
But the general principle, though shifting the energy of a situation, redirecting attention, it's not as crazy as it sounds.
Give me an example, because right now, all I can picture is someone trying to stop a, like, parking lot argument by pulling out a ukulele.
Okay, well, maybe a little less dramatic than that.
Okay, good.
How about this? Say you're in a disagreement and it's getting a bit heated.
I've been there.
Instead of matching that intensity, you take a breath, you pause, and you just subtly change the subject. Maybe you say something like, hey, before we get totally off track, can we just revisit the main goal here?
So instead of being focused on the conflict, you're shifting everyone's attention to a shared objective.
Exactly. You're not pretending the conflict doesn't exist, but you're shifting the mood. You're creating a space where you can talk about things more calmly and productively.
That's actually a really good point.
It's like those mice using the female to redirect the aggressor. Right?
Yeah. And it makes you realize that sometimes conflict resolution isn't about these grand gestures or like winning an argument. It's about those smaller, more strategic moves that can, de-escalate a situation before things go too far.
Exactly.
This study is really making me wonder what other conflict resolution secrets are hiding in plain sight.
I think the biggest takeaway here is the power of perspective. When we step outside of our own human-centric view, and we look at the natural world, it opens us up to new possibilities, new ways of understanding, even for these challenges that have been around forever.
I like that. So the next time you're dealing with a conflict, no matter how big or small, maybe take a page from these mice.
Channel your inner rodent.
Exactly. Look for those opportunities to, shift the energy, redirect things, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find a bit of peace in the most unexpected places.
Just maybe leave the actual cheese out of it.
Totally agree on that. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of mice, conflict resolution, and the incredible power of machine learning. Thanks for joining us. Stay curious, and we'll catch you next time.